Well, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hope all is well. Sending nothing but love, light, and positive energy your way. So, I just recently got back in town. Um, First time flying an airplane. Definitely want to share some of my experiences. And also just drove in from Atlanta back towards close to the Florida border. So, I want to talk to you a little bit, share some stories, and yeah, hopefully I can get your opinion on some of the things that I'm going to mention in this video. So, you are currently looking at a woman that is functioning on 3 hours of sleep, thanks to my experience at the Atlanta airport. 3 hours of sleep and a half can of Arizona herbal tonic tea. Yep, this is the results. So first off, I want to say I'm not much of a complainer. I am very flexible when it comes to challenges. It just depends on the circumstance. But I always try to be optimistic about any challenge or anything that happens that causes things to be off track. Okay. So that's a little bit about myself. The thing is, I was told that if I wanted to save a couple of bucks, I should fly with Sprint. And I did, and I'm so grateful that they got me where I needed to go, safely and got me back safely. Appreciate that. I just wish I would have been more prepared and aware of the type of crowd or the passengers. I didn't know that most of the passengers would be dressed like they just rolled out of bed and rushed over to the airport. I've seen people walking in pajamas, workout clothes, bonnets. I've seen tipsy, drunk people. I even had someone sit behind me that was claiming strangers as their family member, calling everybody auntie, just being extra loud and obnoxious. And I'm so happy he fell asleep. I'm glad that I was lucky enough to find a short flight. I thought that I was going to be nervous during the experience, since it was my first time. I guess what I had to do was trick my brain into thinking like I would when I would get on a fair ride, like a Ferris wheel or any ride that fling me all up in the sky. So, and I knew that my ancestors arranged a lot of things that I know would be very impossible for me to arrange for everything to just fall in place and work out. So I know that it was all good. I had the opportunity to see the school that my daughter will be attending. And I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. But let me tell you what I learned about Atlanta. Now, mind you, I was born in Atlanta, but mainly I grew up most of my childhood in Miami. So I didn't really get the full taste of what Atlanta is like and just being able to just kind of look at things as the norm. I never had a chance to do that until today. So first off, let's talk about the flight. So right after, we kind of got adjusted and landed. The TSA in Atlanta is very different from the TSA in Detroit. So please keep in mind, just because you got away with one thing in Atlanta, it may not be the same. So they found some witch hazel liquid, which that's kind of what I use sometimes when I'm having some irritation on my skin. And it was like, pretty much a small bottle, but I guess it wasn't small enough. I don't know who wanted to take out the time to measure my items, but they had me remove it because I guess it wasn't allowed on the flight. Now, out of all the years of watching the news and criminals and terrorist attacks, I have never heard anybody use witch hazel as a weapon. I never heard of that. So I just let them take it. I said, I'll just replace it. That's it. And I wanted to say, did y'all take P. Diddy through the same process when he came through with some darn baby oil in his luggage? But I said, no, I'm not going to put on the show. I'm going to just go with the flow. And so right after that, I was at the airport. I tried to set a time where I can finish up with orientation and make it to my flight in time. So everything ran smoothly. We went through orientation. We even had a little extra time to talk to the coach, that recruited my daughter and all of that, and then made it to the airport just in time. Now, when we got to the airport, we got settled in. When we get to Atlanta, we got to Atlanta, and I'm so grateful. We got to Atlanta actually 30 minutes early before the time that they actually have listed on the ticket. So it was basically around 10:30 at night. Right when me and my other twin, she went with me. Right when we got on the train that was supposed to transport us to the area where I parked at, the lights went out in the airport. No warning, no nothing. It just went out in the middle of the train ride, and they just told us to get off the train. And they didn't even try to help the ones that's new or that's not that familiar with the layout of the airport. They just said, I need everybody out of the building. Everybody get off the train, get out of the building. The lights, they're off. So I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Because I'm not familiar with this airport. So I just said, let me just get on out of the building. And I'm pretty sure the parking garage should be closed. I didn't even realize that I was at the wrong parking garage until 2 hours later. I kept pressing my panic button. It was hard to hear because of all the machinery and things that was going on, because they're trying to remodel or do something to the airport, do some construction work. I don't know. But that was a fail. Every person that I asked that worked for the airport had no clue of where I needed to go. I gave them the name. I showed them my parking ticket and everything. And they were like, yeah, try that. Go that way. I pretty much walked. I did some exercise last night. I went all the way up to the second floor, to the third floor. That wasn't the right floor. I went to the other side of the floor. Then I went back down to the second floor, to the first floor. Then we did some laps and walked around in the airport again. Then I tried to ask the taxi drivers and the bus drivers, and they pointed me to another bus, And I was like, well, damn. Well, what in the world do they hire people for? Is it just to look good in some vests? Because no one knew exactly where I needed to go until I had to talk to a police officer. I found the police officer. I was like, look, I parked over in the international area, and I need to get to my vehicle. The train just kind of stopped. The lights went off. It just broke down, and we just couldn't continue on the train. And he didn't even know that happened. But luckily, he was able to, point me to the right direction, get me where I needed to go. But it's like, let me tell y'all when that actually happened. I got to the airport, got off the flight, probably around 10:30-ish. Got off the train around 10:40-ish. I got the right type of help around 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning. All that personnel that I asked in the building, in the parking lot, had no clue. And a police officer actually pointed me to where I needed to go. So I was so exhausted. I had no more energy to drive. I could not drive myself home. I was like, fuck it. I'm finna sit in my truck, and I'm just gonna rough it. I camped out in my truck overnight until about 6 a.m. And so from there, I said, you know what, since I'm pretty much close to Stone Mountain, I decided to go and take a ride out there, and kind of found a little bit more energy to walk a little bit and kind of take a few photos of the mountain. It was beautiful. It was breathtaking. And I don't know, I felt so much energy in that area and connected. And even though everybody was like using that area as pretty much a walking trail, I felt like I needed to do a prayer and just connect and show reverence to my ancestors. Now, one thing that stood out was I saw a lady was moving, African American, doing some type of karate hand moves towards the ground. I started to ask her what she was doing, but then I didn't want to impose. Seemed like everybody was in their own zone, so I just kind of, observed and kind of moved on. It was pretty interesting. But I'm gonna tell you one thing that stood out. My back kind of gave me some, little throbbing issues, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get to some medicine. I need to figure out what to do, because I don't want to drive all the way home with sharp pains in my back. And so I decided to get out, take my shoes off, stand in the grass, and just relax and meditate. And do you know that my pain subsided? It was like it just started to calm itself down. Like the inflammation just said thank you, and it went away. And right now, I still don't feel any pain. So I'm so grateful that we have access to healing in Mother Nature, even though certain people always trying to tamper with our natural environment and change it up and make money off it. So that was a great experience. That was, even though I was frustrated, I was like, what I told my brain to not let my situation get the best of me. I just said, you know what, this is just an adventure. Let's just look at it as an adventure. Even though I didn't appreciate the money I had to spend to get out the airport, but it was just an experience, and it was a lesson that I learned. And I know if I can help it, I probably will be catching a flight from another airport. Yeah, pretty cool. Just if you haven't rode on an airplane before, I would suggest bringing a sweater because everybody have different body temperatures, and one person might be hot behind you and got have their AC up on high. Another person on the other side of you might have theirs off. So you just gotta dress according to unexpected changes, within the temperature. And also chewing gum. Make sure you have your little extra dollars for Wi-Fi because they will tell you to put your phone on airplane mode. I would recommend bringing your own snack unless you want to pay $5 for a little small bag of pretzels and some what is it, the Johnny water. So that was my experience. And it seemed like to me you don't really have to worry about getting dressed up and looking presentable. You can actually just throw on some sweats and some flip-flops and grab your bag and go on to the airport. So now I know. Mind you, this was a flight that was around 12 p.m. in the afternoon. So that's what I saw. All right, so moving on. When I got to Detroit, it was a pretty interesting experience. I was worried about the sky because I didn't see any clouds. The sun was out, but it was very hazy and humid. The driving on the highway, compared to Florida drivers and Detroit drivers, I think Detroit got Florida beat. I think with Florida, there's a lot of retired drivers that just need to just get an Uber. A lot of old retired drivers that's still trying to hang in there and don't be completely alert or can't see that well. But yeah, over in Detroit, everybody is rushing, and I can just imagine what it's like when it's wintertime. So we get to the hotel. I didn't even know the area, but I just figured since it was a good rating, I'd just go ahead and get a hotel to try. Plus, I found out they serve vegan food, some vegan, vegetarian items. So I went with that hotel, not knowing that when we walked into the restaurant, me and my daughters, we were kind of like, okay, this is a little nice chill spot. They had some, R&B, soul, neo soul type music playing. And then all of a sudden we were sitting in the restaurant. It wasn't even crowded, probably a few people there. All I know is within the 5 or 10 minutes of us sitting down and ordering our food, it went from laid back, chill to all the uncle and aunties and grandpas and all the older women started to show up. And I'm not saying it was a bad thing. It was just like unexpected. Like, where is this crowd coming from? And it turned into like a nightclub. They was ordering drinks. They got up. They started dancing between the tables and on the side of the tables. And I even seen one guy, he went over, I guess he knew another woman, and he gave her a hug, and his girlfriend was looking like, slap you upside your head if you hug her again type of look. So I'm like, okay, this is about to get interesting. But she remained cordial, but I can tell she had a unit on her face like, nigga, don't be hugging nobody that, and you mine type of look. What else was interesting? Half of the side of the elevators didn't work, so that was pretty interesting. There are some items that didn't work, and I'm like, okay, when they got a high rating, like how in the world they got away with that? But I guess you can't expect perfection. As long as I had a safe place to sleep, I just take it from there and roll with it. Now, moving on to the other topic, we made it out there to my daughter's orientation at the university. It was a very nice, well put together area because I was very panicked. I'm an overprotective mother. When I found out that Detroit have a very high crime rate, especially, with the first 48 hours, and it seemed like most of the areas was in Detroit, it had me kind of panicking, but I said, I know I got to let my daughter grow up. I know she got to find her way, and I just have to try to be strong and support her and be okay with her being miles away from me. Now, one thing that I did notice at the school that kind of made me feel a little uneasy is they are a Roman Catholic school. And when I walked in the school, the first thing I saw was a whole lot of mosaic type pictures and statues of Italian, Caucasian, Roman mix, all of that type of people. And they even had a large giant statue of Mary and Jesus. And they had, a little area where people can go for the mass. And I said to myself, okay, now how's this going to play out? Because, we have a total different type of belief, and I respect them for theirs, but I just hope it doesn't interfere and it's not pressure put on my daughter, because I know in the Christian religion, I know that, sometimes people can be very persistent to the point where they start making you feel guilty, like you're going to be cursed and going to hell, or Jesus ain't going to look out for you if you don't get saved and stuff like that. So, and I've heard a lot of the Catholic churches, they don't have the best background based on the things that was done in the crimes and sex crimes against little boys. Now, I'm not trying to put everybody in the same category. And mind you, me and my daughter went back and forth. Now, not my other daughter, because she was like, Mama, give it a chance. They not, just because a group of people did this doesn't mean they're going to do the same thing. And I was trying to get her to understand that when you support an organization, even if they did not commit the crime, they are still under the same umbrella. They still have the same mindset of certain aspects. And I'm not, and some people get caught and some people get away with it. And so it's hard to say, okay, who's innocent, who's not. That's almost like supporting Hitler. Like, we already know that his mind was very, very demonic and corrupt. And if anybody walk around with the Nazi symbol on them, even though they may not torture someone that's a Jew, it's just the fact that, okay, they are giving reverence and energy and celebrating this man that committed genocide, not just with Jews, but also African Americans as well. So it's like, it's hard to really get people to understand when you are trying to support one thing and you saying, okay, I'm going to erase and I'm going to ignore everything else, but it's all tied together. It's not going to work. It's just not. It just doesn't make any sense. It's almost like I was saying with the 4th of July, we already know the historical meaning behind the flag and a Star Spangled Banner. It was basically based on superiority, stolen land, genocide of some black folks, and making sure that they stay enslaved. But now that they kind of sugared it up and changed it around, I always say sugar it up, because they want it to be supported by everybody. So they got to try to hide the real true meaning, but they try to give you the other watered down meaning so everybody can feel included. But it doesn't change the fact of the foundation that it was created on. The blood and the sweats and the murder and the rape and the torture and the stealing of land from indigenous people. And yes, I do understand that it does tie into religion beliefs, because a lot of Europeans and people came over from another country and decided to settle in here looking for freedom. But then it's like, as soon as they got their partially freedom, they still kept us or our people, our ancestors enslaved. But nobody don't want to see that. They just want to say, oh, we finna eat. We about to celebrate. We about to shoot fireworks. And it's just like with the Christian beliefs. It's like they always saying they separate church and state. But at the same time, when you look at the history of school, they started it in the church. School started off in the church, reading the Bible, studying the scripture. And then eventually it led to tying in, preparing children for the systematic work field. And then that's why they incorporate the cap and gown, because that's what the clergymen used to wear during the Roman era. So it's like they're secretly tying everything in, but they're trying to tell us that, no, we keep those matters different. Now, if a guy is a pedophile in the Catholic Church, then he's going to be punished not only by his church members, but also by the law. So he's going to eventually have to go over to the courtroom, put his hand on the Bible, and do all his swearing and probably lying at the same time to plead his case. So it's like I was getting all in my feelings, but at the same time, I said to myself, all I can do is just educate my daughters and let them figure out life from there. And then I said to myself, at the end of the day, it's no way around it. The government ain't going to take advantage no matter what. You can go to college, you can get a scholarship, they're going to still get their money back. You're going to still pour it into their ideas of how you should be as a American citizen. So whether you finish college and graduate, get a job, your taxes going to the government. Then you probably still got to pay back student loans. That's still going to the government. So it's like, whether you go to a college that is Catholic, Christian, Islamic, it doesn't matter. It's all still tied to the government. The government going to get a piece of it. There's no way around it. Whether you start a church, whether you try to start a business, the government still got their hand in everything. And they're going to make sure that you follow their policy, their rules, the way they want it done. Even though they know how to cut corners and beat the system because they created the system, they're going to make sure you follow the system. And if you don't want to go through their system, then they push you to the streets to be either homeless and begging, or if you are a survivor, you can live off grid. So it's no way around the circumstance. So that's why I told my daughter, don't let the degree use her. She needs to make sure she use it, because a lot of people go to school, they get frustrated, they start partying, they make some poor choices, they drop out, and now they're confined to debt. And now they have to spend their life trying to figure out how they're going to get out of this debt. And if they don't stay on top of it, then the government comes for your taxes when you work. So it's like, you just got to know, use it to your best ability to make it benefit you and not the government. Don't let the government make double money off you and you spending the rest of your life being a robot and enslaved to their system. And so that's the kind of advice I gave my daughter. I said, even though I'm very strict about supporting American government ideas, and it sounds like to me, I'm getting to the point where I just probably need to go on to another country, because it seemed like no one is waking up. I'll say in my group, in my family, and everybody is looking at things from a like just a weird way. Like, okay, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna tell you to pray. This is what I've been hearing. I want you to pray when you're going through hard times, but they walk around and they stress about people, about bills, and people that owe them money. They stress about it. They bitch about it. I'm hearing, okay, you need to read this scripture, but at the same time, you're breaking the commandments in the scripture. So it's like a lot of contradictions that it just gets annoying to have to live and sit through it. And, it's like you talk about people being prejudiced, but then at the same time, you prejudice against your own race. You show that, you don't want to deal with your own family. You don't want to work together in unity. You want to try to be jealous. You want to try to talk about each other and try to bring each other down, have sense and run game on each other, borrow money and say you're going to pay it back and don't pay it back, and use each other and take it. It's like, that's why my respect for certain Christian members is like close to zero, because it's like, you can't say one thing and then you do another. And that's how the government want it, because they'll sit there and tell you that, oh, we recognize all nationalities. We recognize all religion. They're all welcome in this country. But you go and touch one of their statues that they put up. Go ahead. You try snatching a flag down and burning it, or saying that, going into, one of their establishment. How about going into the courtroom and say, okay, I ain't putting my hand on no King James Bible. I'm going to put my hand on the Quran, and see how they react. But then they say, oh, we treat everybody equally. One nation under God. But is it really somebody else's God, or is it really your God, the American God, the deity that they created and they give energy to, and they sacrifice kids to, and they sacrifice lives to, and they create prison systems, and they create wars, and then they say, okay, all the people in the army, y'all can shoot and bomb this group of people, but all the people that live in the ghetto and the thugs in the gang, y'all can't shoot because y'all didn't go through our program and get brainwashed with our system. So now we throwing y'all in the prison. Contradiction. Doesn't make sense. Really doesn't make sense to me. So as much as I want to say fuck all of it, I still got to live within it, but we just got to wake up. And the more people that wake up, the more we'll see change in our society. But as long as we're comfortable with it and we're like, well, it don't got nothing to do with me, or, well, as long as it ain't affecting me and my family. Oh, yes. Every decision that's made affects all of us, whether you want to face it or not. Once they pass a law or a bill and you don't follow it, there you go. You're going to get in trouble. And then your family got to suffer from whatever consequence they give you. So whether you are religious, whether you are into spirituality, whether whatever religion you in, we all supposed to work together to make a difference on this planet, and also collectively, because then that's when we'll see beautiful blessings coming into everybody's life, not just a certain group of people. Because you can sit there and you can pray all you want to, but the only way change happens is when you put energy in it. See, it's not just about, oh, I said a prayer. Nope. It depends on your vibration. A prayer is a spell. There are spells in the books. There are fairy tales in the books, in the Bible too. So if your vibration ain't right, because it's a ritual you got to go through for your prayers to really take place in your life. If you're not mentally in the right place, that's like talking to, I can't even say a tree, because a tree got energy too and responds to stuff. But that's like talking to a wall. So, you can go out there and you can say, oh, I'm about to be blessed with a car and a house and this and this and that. But you out there being jealous. You out there being rude. You walking around mad because, and I know it's not easy, because the way we were programmed to be jealous, because another race of people taught us to be jealous. When a man cheats, we were taught to respond to that in a negative way, instead of trying to teach us how to be healthy mentally and emotionally and love ourselves enough to say, you know what? We didn't work out. I respect you. Go on about your business. Or instead of lying and cheating and stealing, just trying to appreciate what you have, or just be transparent about what you want and what changes you want to make. See, they don't teach us that really too much in school. I'm the one that teach it. That's why I get a lot of emails from some parents like, oh, how the hell you going to tell my daughter how to make sure she do her homework and tell the truth and tell me to tell the truth? You damn right. If I got to work with your child, I'm going to make sure I instill character in them, not just reading and writing. They got to be prepared for the next grade level. They got to be prepared for bitchy teachers that don't care about making a difference. They just want to check. So with that being said, I'm going to do my part as long as I got the power within me. Now, like I said, I did all of the stuff that I'm sitting up here talking about. So I'm not trying to exclude myself and make myself look any higher or better than anyone. But I do know there's enough resources out here, enough information out here, when you really want to take out the time to read it and listen to it, to know that the system is broken, and old traditional ideas, a lot of it is broken. It's a trick of the enemy. It is a spiritual warfare to keep you under control, to suck you dry, not just physically, but financially, emotionally, and mentally. But at the end of the day, People trying to put on this road to fit in and want to see how many hoes they can fuck and how many guys they can run game on and how many cars and how much this and how much that. All this stuff is irrelevant, especially if everything get blowed up, especially if our three countries decide to really come together and make a move. You know, all this irrelevant stuff, you can sit up there and pray if you want to and pray a bomb away. You better be in the right mind space. Your vibration better be right, because you can do all that praying and still get blowed up. Why you think people still come to church and rob the pastors and rob the members and like that guy who shot up the people in the church? And condolences go out to them. And I'm not trying to desensitize the situation. It's just the fact that there's a way you got to do things. And of course, the Vaticans, the popes, they know our secret ingredients to knowing how to manifest things. They know about our ancestors that knew how to tap into the world and the earth. And before they were colonized, they know our secrets, but they don't want you to know it. But when you take out the time and you tap into earth and you can pray to your ancestors, give thanks, you will see a difference when you start getting your mind right. Because I'm pretty sure they feel some type of way. You sitting up there praying that Santa Claus bring your kids some toys, and we taught you how to do a certain skill because it runs in the DNA. We gave you a gift. We taught you how to use your inner skills to make things happen, and you want to give it away to somebody that don't even look like us. And then we wonder why things hard. Then we want to say it's the white man holding us back. There's a group of us sticking together and stop hating on each other. That's no excuse. We holding each other. We holding ourselves back. But I'm gonna let y'all go. I'll be in touch, and y'all just stay positive and don't give up. Don't give up on the positive. Because the more people come on board on the positive side, to have healing that childhood wound, letting go of all these European systems, that's when you're going to really see a change in your life. So with that being said, I love you. Take care. Until next time, peace out. Hey, y'all, I forgot to mention one more thing about my Georgia experience. I'm a big vegan fan, mixed with vegetarian, depending on the dish. When you guys decide to order your food, please do not be fooled by the name of the restaurant. And what I mean by that is, just because you see a black person name doesn't mean there's a black shelf in the kitchen. So I ordered a breakfast meal because it looked like a normal breakfast meal. But when I went inside, even though the restaurant has a black name title, it was all Arabian type people. And it was a few black customers, but I'm just going to say, my stomach feels like it's about to explode. So I'm just giving you a heads up. That is just one little experience. I'm not saying it's like that everywhere, but I'm just saying, make sure the name represent who in the kitchen cooking your food. I've been in other restaurants like that in Florida where I wanted Chinese food, and then I come and find out that there's Mexicans back there cooking Chinese food. So you got a little confused taste going on. Another thing I noticed that was interesting is on the highway, the miles per hour sign, it'll show 70 miles per hour. And then before you know it, you can blink your eye in a minute, you got to do 40. So it doesn't kind of reduce like, normally when you're riding on the highway, you see 70, then it reduces down to 65, then 55. No, where I was going in Georgia, it went from 70 straight to 40. And then there's some sheriffs sitting up there waiting to pull you over just in case you don't slow down in time. So definitely keep your eyes out for that. That was a learning experience for me. Let's see what else. Oh, and in some of the small towns in Georgia, also be careful because I noticed there were like a few signs that was knocked over. Some of the numbers were scraped off and looked like somebody sprayed 2 S's on it. And I guess it was representing 55. So yeah, I should have took a picture of it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have so far. I'm not saying Georgia is a bad place because actually that's where I'm trying to move, somewhere up towards Atlanta, somewhere back that way, possibly. If not there, it might be in another country. But I don't know. We'll let the ancestors lead the way. But yeah, y'all just be careful out there. Stay positive and stay safe. Much love. Peace out.